Commissioner Prairie, I am promoting you to panelist.
Right. All right. Good evening, everybody. I call this meeting to order. We'll now conduct roll call.
Here.
Chair Michaels,
Here.
Commissioner Bonnie Turner,
Here.
Commissioner Tina Prairie,
Here.
Commissioner Lisa Gorski,
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Ellison,
Here.
and Commissioner Vanessa Rita Reyes for the vote.
All right. Taking a look at our agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? All right. Hearing none. Hearing none. So the agenda stands as approved. Are there any corrections to the minutes? All right. Hearing none. The meeting minutes are approved as presented. There's a public comment thing in here. Is there anybody here for public comment? All right, moving right along. So Coach's Corner this week for a meeting. Hope you guys have had some time to think about this. Think of a time when an agency, organization, or leader earned your trust. And what did they do? I was thinking about questions to pose to this group to, again, learn more about our decision making, how we support others, and what it looks like, what it would look like, what it's looked like for us when an organization or a leader has gained trust, as we would need to do that with the community. That's kind of how I envision it. So yeah, I just want to open the floor there and see what does that look like for you all when an agency, organization, or leader has earned your trust. What do they do? And I don't mind. Oh, go for it, Lisa.
I don't have any specific example, but just in general, when they're good for their word, when they say they're going to do something and then they do it, that is earning trust.
I agree. I can think of a specific example, somebody who started off as a supervisor of mine probably about 10 years ago, and I would call her really, really close. I call her family now, actually. We call each other bro and sis all the time. But we do that because of the relationship we built. And she started that, she's my supervisor and I was her subordinate. And she really walked the walk. And she's very transparent about just really everything. And that goes a long way with me. Just sharing with me your decision-making process, how you got from point A to point B, and explaining what that looks like. And just having open lines of communication instead of, being my supervisor and saying, hey, do this thing, do this task. It was, hey, I have this task. What are your thoughts about it? I have some ideas, but I want to hear what your thoughts are. Here's the project as it stands. I'm going to read it out to you. Here's some context to it. Talk to me. And then I would talk to her and she would say, oh, okay, that's cool because I kind of had it I envisioned it this way, and here's our overlap, or here's where, here's where this extra context is needed. And that was always helpful for me. And so I could trust her. And then she would also tell me it's okay to say no. It's okay to feel how you're feeling. And I've never had a supervisor do that before. And so for me, those are the qualities of the corner leader, somebody who says it's okay to say no or disagree. Like you don't have to agree with me all the time either, Michael. It's okay to push back. Here's how you do it respectfully, right? And so that just goes such a long way when leaders and organizations can just be transparent about decision making and include those in the process too, and just have open an open conversation about what that looks like, as opposed to here's a bulleted list, follow it, ask questions later. Like just that open-endedness is huge for me.
I'll go next. I had a experience when I was in the military that had a profound impact on me. I was a really young in the military, maybe like a year in, and I was in Afghanistan and a lot going on. But I asked my leader, who was probably had been in the military 15 years at that point, what are we supposed to do? What's the plan? And I remember him telling me very specifically, I don't know enough about this topic to give you my opinion. And later I asked him, because in the military you have all these people who think they know everything and everyone has an answer. And that was very unorthodox at the time. And when I talked to him afterwards, maybe like a couple months after I asked him about it, he said, it's okay to tell people that you don't know. Right? And that really built a lot of trust in my faith in him for him to be open and honest and say, I don't know, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to get there together. That really had a really big impact on me. It's something that I try to do now, even to this day. Like, I don't know, I can try and figure it out for you, but I have no idea. Right? And I think that being open and honest really helps people.
I'll go next. I've had a lot of managers in my professional life, and there was one leader in particular that she would always say, oh, I support you, which, are words, but actions speak louder than words. And so I had a conflict. I was doing an audit. The person I audited didn't agree with me. Kind of went back and forth, and I talked to my manager and I explained the situation. And she, she's like, I support you, whatever you think, I'll support you. And so she supported me and she resolved the conflict, and it was a good situation. But so I feel like a leader that supports you when there's conflict and doesn't just like throw you under the bus, because I've had that happen too. So.
Well, what jumped in my mind is recent surgery where the surgeon was very upfront with me when he didn't know the answers to my questions. He says, I really can't answer that. And that gives me a sense of trusting all the things that he said, because he was honest about his reticence or his inability to address the question that I was asking. So that builds trust. And I think that follows along with some of the themes here when folks are willing to say, I don't really know.
Is there any question that's online?
Commissioner Prairie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure because I can't tell if you guys can see me or hear me very well. But,
We can't.
what
We
came?
can't see you, so.
Oh, okay. I thought you could see me. What came to mind for me was years ago, I worked for an agency called STAR, which stands for Standing Against Together Against Rape. And I was very proud of that agency and the director because she acted as this fierce, unwavering shield for people that have been marginalized by treatment and silence. And we were always out in the public and always advocating for these survivors. And for me to, I still get a little emotional about it. We had to build the trust with the community, and we had to be out there even when we had conflict against what we were speaking of. Because as a society sometimes, often causes victims to become shamed about what's happened to them, even if it was, wasn't their fault, but they were still treated that way. And so we would go into the community schools and agencies and build trust, let them know that we were there, private phone calls. We just didn't do lip service. We actually went out and made ourselves available. And oftentimes I was an advocate, and oftentimes I would be out in the community doing shopping or whatever I was doing for that day. And I would have a person come up to me and divulge. So I knew that they trusted me and they trusted the agency. And so that was very important to be visible, to listen, stop talking and listen. And yeah, I think that we listened a lot. We did actively listened to somebody. We didn't judge. We didn't question. So we were able to allow people to, made it available for them to, come forward. So I guess what I'm thinking as an agency for us, it would be not giving lip service, to be actually being consistent in what we're doing and not judging and, saying, maybe admitting a mistake, we may have gotten that wrong, but let's see what we can do to change to fix that. So I'm done. I'm sorry.
Didn't apologize, and we can give you a moment to get your camera sorted because we do miss your face.
I've tried while we were talking and I can't, I've unblocked the video. I've unblocked last time I had to go get my son and he's not home now. So I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
No worries.
I'll still look here. I'll see. I don't know if
I
because
just want to say thank you for answering those questions that are going to help us as we approach our next meeting and our next work plan chunk of work.
Anybody else? Thank you for sharing. Just again, ask this question just to see what it looks like, what it's looked like for us personally, and then how we can exhibit those traits that were meaningful for us. Just the notes I've taken down: being supportive, saying I don't know, being honest about that, admitting your faults, keeping your word, being transparent. Like these are all things that I think that we're able to exhibit to and gain community trust as we get rolling here.
Is here in time to answer the question.
Right in.
Put her on the spot.
Yeah, we were.
We got you seated there.
We were just wrapping up our conversation, but we'll open it up to you. The question that we had sent out, what does it look like, or when an agency has gained your trust or an organization has gained your trust, what does that look like? What do they do?
Yeah, so saying or doing what they say they will do. And being open about how they arrived at a decision, whether it's favorable or not to the issue at hand.
Well, that follows our discussion quite well. That was a lot of a lot of the traits that we had talked about too. And just to summarize, so those things, admitting your faults, admitting you don't know, keeping your word, being a supportive leader, show togetherness. I think I heard the word a shield for those that have a voice, and so really just exhibiting those traits and hopeful that our group here can do that as well as we try to gain community trust. So thank you all for sharing. And we'll move into our bylaws review.
So in your packet is the final draft of the bylaws. Thank you for your input, and we have plain talked the bylaws.
Did you send an email around about this? Because I didn't get anything.
I had from the discussion that we did.
Okay.
From the discussion and what you had sent before,
Got it.
put together this draft. Commissioner Crary, I see your hand up.
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to make a comment looking at the Equity Commission bylaws, and it looks like that you really nicely streamlined it, incorporated what we talked about last time.
I have to give a large dose of credit to Commissioner Arita Reyes. She really did the heavy lifting as far as putting this in plain language.
I
Thank-
thought so.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to read. It's very easy to read.
You can see your professional work in this. I had another member of staff was reading this as it was coming off the printer, and she said, "This is how it should be for all of you."
Yeah.
So if this, is this gonna be posted online or where can we find this?
Yeah, so it would be on your webpage online.
Oh, cool. And I'm assuming these, like, when it refers to these municipal codes,
The
those
little
will be linked.
hyperlinked, yeah. Well, I will take the draft stamp off. We will always, whenever we revise these, so if you change your mind at your next meeting and you revise something, that revision date will always be at the top.
Yeah, I don't have any. This looks really good.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve the bylaws.
I second.
So the motion is to approve the bylaws. No, oh, wait, I have to open it.
Now we open for debate.
No, it's open for.
The guest mayors in discussion. We open it for
Oh, sorry,
discussion.
discussion.
So I'll amend your.
Open for discussion.
You have a coach code.
Oh. I always practice my pause. Sometimes it's too long. It's a teacher pause, right? If there's none, bring it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All that opposed say, was it nay? No. No,
Do the
nay.
same sign or nay. You just gotta tell them how you want them.
Okay, all opposed say nay.
Do we want to do undecideds? Do we do undecideds? No, I just thought that was proper protocol.
It's abstain. There's a conflict of
Abstain.
interest. There should be none.
And then how do I close it? Sorry.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Nice use. All right.
That's my teacher's pause. Thank you.
Right, moving along to our work plan and goal setting. Yeah, we talked about this last week. In the packets, we've got our Smarty goals.
Now, with your permission, Chair, and Commissioner Crary, I emailed this shortly before the meeting. So I reworked these Smarty goals to be more intuitive as a commission. And so these are really a test. Think of this as a checklist as you're developing the goal. Does it pass all these items in the checklist? And if it does, you have a Smarty goal. But this language is better tailored from hearing your input at the last meeting. This language is better tailored to what you're doing here at meetings. And I still feel like there's some trepidation about goal setting from talking to a few folks. So what I would like to ask is, maybe we just set 3 goals based on these duties. Let's test these 3 duties with this checklist, broaden them out, zhuzh them up, as the mayor says, and move forward with that, with a focus on learning and hearing the public's input. How would you feel about moving forward that way?
I like it.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
Right, so I have also provided you the duties as they're written. And so I am going to step back and have you discuss how this should move forward.
And, oh, go ahead.
Well, I know we talked last time about having people come in and talk to us. And one of our goals is to collect data on gaps and barriers that exist that we don't know about. So I guess we have to like toss out a net and find how we can collect this data, whether people come to see us, whether we meet people where they are somehow. I don't know. I'm just tossing stuff out there. So I guess one big goal would be to collect information, collect data, collect on issues.
And that's almost precisely what I was going to say. And my question I was going to pose is, what data does the city have? That if we could use that as a starting point to see if they've identified any gaps or barriers, and what that's looked like and how they've used and what type of study they've done to collect that, and then maybe go from there and see.
And we also talked last time about having people from the city, from different departments in the city, come and talk to us about any issues that they are aware of.
So your July meeting, I have planned sort of the Tumwater 101. So that will be the overview of the city, the departments, the operations, and also to show you what data we have now. So for example, I was just talking with folks from our stormwater section, and they actually have a permit with the Washington State Department of Ecology, stormwater permit. It's NPDES, and I don't know all the letters of that acronym, but I will present that to you at the next meeting. But part of that permit, there are equity requirements so that we are identifying underserved communities and how we are improving services, how we're doing outreach. And so as we've been working on this, on our meetings, I've been going out to the different staff and asking them, what equity requirements do you have? What kind of language are these other agencies using so that we can start to unify our language and figure out what we're talking about when we talk about underserved communities or marginalized communities? What is the language that we're going to use? And if we're collecting this data for that purpose, why aren't we saving it and sharing it in a place that's easily accessible so that you and students and anybody else who is interested in the data can have access to it? So that's sort of the framing. Does that mean?
Sounds like a great, no, that sounds like a great opportunity. Thank you for doing. If it's, it could be that we would serve as the central node for that information and package that up and present that to the city as, with common language and approval. Is that something that an equity commission does?
You asked for a glossary in your work plan.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
So all that is to say that that is completely possible.
Okay. I have to I was on Facebook the other day and I follow Sheriff Saunders and Thurston County Sheriff. But he posted that he was at an Eid celebration. And that he had met with members of the community and just talked about issues that they were having, that the Muslim community was having, that so that they could have better access. And I was like, oh, that's equity. That's equity commission stuff. That's it in action. Collecting.
I wonder if to be able to identify gaps and barriers, we also, along the lines of what you were sharing, need to learn about what positive work is happening, and therefore the goal needs to be a little more broad in terms of kind of, this might sound trite, but like the state of equity in Tumwater, like kind of understand what is already being done and called equity work in the city. And I would go so far as saying that there are partnerships that go beyond the city too, that are contributing to our city's community. And so kind of learning about everything and anything equity would be a good starting point. And then under that goal, we could list activities that will get us to learning about equity in Tumwater. So like the listening session with community could be one of the activities under the goal. Having presentations from the city departments could be another activity. Having maybe state actors that directly affect somehow city equity. For example, small businesses in Tumwater. How easy is it to set up a small business in Tumwater? I could be wrong, but I don't think that's a city thing. That's more like a state agency and Thurston County type of thing. So trying to understand the different actors and stakeholders that inform the work.
So speaking broadly, it's amassing all that information, processing that. Amassing it's one thing, putting it into organizing it, and making it a central area where all of this information is, and then presenting that to the city.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
I was listening to all of you. Is there an opportunity to target a little bit more and do a hierarchy of priorities, right? Because I feel like you can listen to all the departments and 2 years will go by and you still have not heard from all the departments, right? We have 32 different line items in our budget in the general fund from 32 different departments. So is there a way to filter a little bit more, knowing that council and my timeline could be different than your timeline, but I would like a quicker cadence of long-term and short-term. So could that be part of your discussion of what some short-term, some long-term goals?
Is there a hierarchy of, or a pecking order of departments that
You're gonna
council
get a different
wants?
answer from every staff person, every council member, and this person, and that person.
Recommend public facing departments, police department, fire department. Trying to think how I interact with the city. Like I had to get project plans for my house. I had to get, all kinds of like work permits, like just probably more for public facing departments that I would suggest, because they would probably have some good input.
Departments that have that have interactions with like just the general population mostly, right?
That would
Is
be.
that-
Every department.
Well, I mean, I've never asked about a permit or gone, I've never even, like really had to go to city hall for much of anything. So that's why I said that. But like a police officer, a fire, a first responder, I feel like that feels more general. Like I have more interactions with them than I do anybody here or the Department of Ecology or Commerce or anything. I'm just speaking personally.
Yeah.
No, I don't know enough. I don't have the Tumwater 101 yet. I can't make those. But yes, yes, big goals and small goals would be good. I
I
think.
wonder if going back to our icebreaker today to where, how did we begin to trust an agency or a leader? And I wasn't here for the whole discussion, but I imagine that listening and following through with what you've listened as a leader, would fall under that. And so I wonder if the order of operations is we have listening first to hear what is priority for the community versus what is priority for the service providers. If I were to think of it not as a commissioner, but as just a regular Vanessa Arita Reyes walking around in Tumwater, one of the biggest things on my mind is how to make my just my dollar stretch in this city. Like what are the things that, or like how can I increase my income, or how can I stabilize my income, or and things like that are very hard for a city on its own to solve. But what are some of the top questions that, even if from an uninformed position, like maybe someone doesn't know that it doesn't correspond to the city to, support a small business or whatever. But what are some of the hot topic questions that our community members have? And if it's within the scope of the work of the city, then we take that on first. I guess we could put in the back burner the things that are not only up to the city, but with a commitment to eventually look at it and eventually learn about it.
Yeah, and I remember in our discussion our last discussion, this was 2 weeks ago, something like that had been brought up too, where we, like, is there a list of community priorities, and then there's a list of city priorities, and see where there's overlap, and then really target and pinpoint, okay, like get to the meat of that. What is it? There's overlap there. Why is that? Are they saying the same thing? Right? And what does that look like? I think that would give us a really good starting thing, just to see if there's any alignment or disalignment, I suppose, and unpack that too as well.
Is there any place we can get that information by our next meeting? I mean, is there something we can read, something?
Kelly, have you shared the the community
I
survey?
will. Let me share why we're doing the order of operations this way. Before you see the data, before you get into the knowledge, so that as your staff, what I would recommend is you decide, what are you looking for, so that your goals are not influenced by what you absorb. And then that way as staff, I can say, oh, you're curious about that. It helps me to open up the lens and bring in different data sources. So, and what I hear a lot of are tasks. So I hear like community outreach. We could go on site visits. We can go to folks and visit. There's a lot of things we can do. But what I need to make sure that I'm drafting this plan as quickly as possible is to know what is the goal in the way that you frame it.
I have two things on this discussion. The first thing is an ask. For the city website, can you look in to see if there's analytics on site visits, right? And for those that are watching, I don't know what that means. It's like when people go to the city website, where do they click When do they drop off of the city website? And the reason why I'm asking that is because that can generally give us some information as to where people are looking for on the city site. And so that's one of my first asks when it comes to data. But the second thing is, one thing I want to make sure we keep in mind is a lot of times in these discussions, and especially in other cities, there's a tendency to overlook citizens who are not plugged in politically, right? And who essentially like don't really care about government at all, right? I want to make sure that before we go out and talk to the community, we do something, right? Whether it's we do common language on a bylaw, someone else's bylaw, or a city council agenda. So that way, when we go out into the community, we have a show of what this commission can actually do for people, right? Because what I've seen a lot in today's times is people look at government and say, that doesn't do anything for me, right? It doesn't help me. It doesn't stretch my dollar. And when, especially times in community outreach, sometimes you get, why would I even listen to you? You guys are just sitting there pontificating on whatever comes to your mind. I think it's important to go to the community and say, we're here because we've already done this, even if it's a small thing. This small thing, we've made agendas easier to understand. This is how we're able to help you. And I think that will open up the doors for people who maybe not politically engaged to say, okay, this is something that can actually benefit me and my neighbors. Let me engage a little bit more rather than just, hey, I'm from the government, listen to me, let me get your survey or answer to this survey. I think that's really important. Even if it's the smallest thing, you know, saying we have done something already to help you, I think is really, really massively important when it comes to this type of work. Personally.
I'm hearing like trust build, you want to trust build before we even promise it.
Absolutely.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've also been in an outreach position. Totally agree, especially when it comes to building trust with government. It's very important to show up and show that we're with community.
So it sounds like the priority is listening. And to me, that's the B duty, right? Identify the existing gaps and barriers. Because until you establish trust, it sounds like you're not ready for C, right? That'll come with time. So let's do B. Let's make a goal out of this and let's move forward with that one goal. Our work plan is what we say it is, right? It doesn't have to fit my formatting. It's what works for the group so that I can send that out to you and then get your task ideas and then start making a schedule and start getting things moving for you.
We need to collect the information.
I wonder if part of collecting information might be networking with other equity councils.
We're having a meeting, joint
In
meeting.
September.
Okay.
Sooner than that, but look at what Lacey has published, look at what Olympia has published, other communities, surrounding communities here. But what have they put down as their goals? What are they working on? What are their concerns? That would be really helpful. So that could be a part of B.
It's an activity to research what other equity commissions have.
Yeah, yeah. I think that might stimulate some ideas from us and get a better idea, better pulse on what's really happening around here in Thurston County.
Let's take B and let's get it through the sifter. Identify existing gaps and barriers which could prevent full participation in government and public policy. Is that specific enough? Does it clearly define the issue or the policy outcome that you're looking for? How can we make that more specific? Still keep it a goal, like it's still pretty broad so we can tuck all those tasks underneath it. Gaps and barriers for who?
People in the community. People in groups.
There's noise, Commissioner Turner, what's it for me?
And I'm thinking. No, I agree. When it comes to identifying those people, again, I think the biggest thing is we're not governmentally engaged. But I also think if we're trying to be specific and creating a goal for B, specifically for Tumwater, participation in government to me looks like city council meetings because they are generally, to me, the most public facing that almost everybody can go to, right? Because you can go on Zoom. So I think if we want to create a goal, I think maybe starting there is the best way, right? And saying, what is it about city council that we can make more equitable and identify some gaps and barriers into maybe how that's done to try to get a goal for a B. So one thing as an example that I think is really important is in city council meetings, you hear the term consent calendar, and a lot of people have no idea what that means, right? And people who are plugged in understand it, but maybe looking at it and saying, maybe this should be renamed, right? And saying, or maybe we, I know, right? But looking at that and saying, maybe we look at just something as small as the agenda, saying, does this create barriers that maybe we're not looking at, right?
Can I ask you a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Would you be open to considering? So attending a meeting is one thing, right?
Mhm.
But are you looking to influence change or being heard, or is it just attendance?
Just attendance, right?
Okay, I would ask you to.
Well, this,
There's a lot of ways to get there.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, so I think
As an example, right?
Right.
Yes, right?
for those serving on council, our initial reaction is if you come to council meetings, something you're too late because we have all these boards and commissions. So like you just to consider that if it's just attendance, what is that impacting? But if it is influencing and being seen and heard in space, council is not the space, right? For me, I think because it has gone through so many iterations. So those gaps before, where are those opportunities where we're not listening, right? By the time you get to council, you're too late to influence anything. So just something to consider.
Right.
If it's just tracking attendance, I would ask that you dig a little deeper.
Mhm.
But I don't, right? For me as a mayor, the skill set in this room, the opportunities you have are boundless, right? So can you think a little larger than just attendance at a council?
Right, yes.
Just listening to you talk, Bonnie, I wrote down the word like accessibility to or making current processes accessible to those, right, that are not as involved. And so you're talking about attendance with city council, and if we try and make it further or take it a step further, like what does accessibility look like for all those different commissions and boards and groups that meet? To Mayor Dolph's point, that by the time you get to city council, you said, would you say it's too late? Is that, or,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Because, there's so many, so making, all those other opportunities more accessible, more attainable, more available for those that probably don't know they exist, or know what they're about.
Is that information anywhere? Like, could you go on the? Just thinking of Schoolhouse Rock. A train should stop, there should be a light at the railroad tracks. okay, how do I make that a law in my city?
Yeah, yeah.
What commission do I go to? I can't go to the city, by this time I go to the city council meeting, that's too late, I need to start earlier. Is there a map somewhere that somebody could go and say, oh, this is a commission I need to speak to, and so I can attend that meeting and say, there should be a light here.
So you're identifying an existing gap and barrier.
Okay.
Both
there is-
are for
there-
that,
So there is
right?
not a map for
And
that.
while it might not be an attendance number and it might not be changing the language of the agenda, it might be being conduit and having a video series or being ambassadors, working with a youth council in the future. So there's lots of different avenues. I don't want to shut down any enthusiasm because that's the right direction, right? I've heard so far, identify existing gaps and barriers for the people in the community, which could prevent full participation in government and public policy.
So influencing stands out, influencing. Because participation, the way it's written, it does sound like it's attendance. Right, so if we talk about, being heard, speaking up, being heard, influencing. And they're,
I'm gonna test you. Ready? Hold on to your word. Identifying existing gaps and barriers for people in the community, which could prevent full participation in government and public policy and influence.
what are they influencing?
What are you influencing?
Oh, what I meant was that when we say which could prevent full participation in government, the word participation kind of sounds like attendance.
It's not necessarily.
Right. And what I'm trying to say is maybe we can define the word participation. So that, because participation to me, in a graduation, let's say, I could be in the audience. I could be walking on the stage. I could be conferring the degree. I could be giving a speech. I could have worked behind the scenes to organize the graduation event. There's so many different ways to participate in a given thing. And so if we define participation, it might help us get to a way to increase participation.
What kind of participation do you think is the most that you are trying to influence? Policy participation? Is it someone coming here to just access the facility to pay a water bill? So what's something else you could use that is that broad because we're trying to welcome everyone? Including the folks outside who are very noisy and loud right now.
Everybody talked to them once, they're like,
That's fine, they're hiding.
It makes me think of community services and regulations as the kind of the category to access community services and understand regulations.
I was gonna say, is it understand and use maybe?
And that's perfect, yeah.
Understand and use?
Yes.
And anything else we'd like? I mean. Sometimes we don't have a choice but to use the service, right? But how accessible that service is to us is the crux of it.
What I thought of when Commissioner Gorski was talking is it's almost like we need an AI portal. And these days I use AI a lot. And I ask the question now, what does this mean? How do I do this? And then comes back this actually pretty decent answer. What if we had a similar kind of AI portal for someone who wants to know, I want to build a house. how do I permit that, or what do I have to do? And then she comes back, here's your 10 things that you have to do in order to build a house, for example. And so that kind of portal, but I don't know that the city has anything like that right now. I think that wouldn't they need to look through the city website in order to find that? Maybe there's a query function on there, but not as intelligent as or as in depth as what an AI search engine. Wouldn't that be helpful?
It would be.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big project.
Yeah, it's a big project. And
That is true. Yeah, some people are unfamiliar with it, or, you know, we also need to be mindful, some of our community members don't have computer access or are uncomfortable with computers. So we need to make sure everybody has access to that whatever tool we're talking about.
Kelly, when you're gonna do like the 101 for this commission, is there a space to actually go through the website and see what's there and frequently ask questions? And has anyone gone through the website?
From this commission?
Yeah.
Commission? Has anyone gone to the website?
I go through the website a lot.
Pretty often.
not as if it were my job, but a little bit, yes.
I go for what I want.
It recently, within the last, there's been a panda for a while.
Oh.
Road Commissioner Curry.
Well, I kind of changed my mind. I keep on thinking, I mean, I'm going back and forth, and I want to keep the contact by the marginal people or people that are not involved with the services very often or rarely, to keep it very simple. And I think like a AI portal would be kind of complicated for a lot of people. You know, maybe I have that wrong. I keep on thinking that the most efficient way to find these gaps is to probably stop expecting the city or the community to come to us. We have to go to them somehow. And I think we were talking about listening and holding kind of a listening sessions, like in a park, or partnering up with a local trusted nonprofit organization. But I keep on thinking of partnering up with somebody where we can be allowed to hear people. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
What I hear again are tasks.
Yeah.
And so I think what I'm feeling is that perhaps this approach is not fitting. And so if this approach is not fitting, what might fit better?
Can I give a pass at your existing approach? I think participation in government, participation in public policy, I see them as two different things. And so I'm proposing that we could separate the two. And the first one could sound something like identify existing gaps and barriers which could prevent full understanding and use of government services on water. And then the second one would sound similar, but it would be identify existing gaps and barriers which could prevent full understanding and motivation to influence stormwater public policy. And the understanding part is, in that second one, is something that I'm not sure if it's the right verbiage, but basically understanding how I could, in fact, influence public policy in this community. And then understanding what some of the gaps and barriers are for me to understand it. And then understanding what some of the gaps and barriers are for me to even be motivated enough to to not throw my hands up in the air and say, what is the point?
I think we need to define public policy. That's a pretty governmental term.
We can do that.
What does that mean to each of us? Talk about. public
How could
policy.
we plain talk that?
Yeah, how would that be?
That's great. Like, that's great, because I might mess this up, but is public policy, does it mean how rules, regulations, and laws come into place? Maybe not laws, rules and regulations come into place in the community? Is that what public policy is? Because I'm not a government major.
Yeah, so for the terms of Tumwater, right, that's the legislative branch of government, so that's council. Council develops and passes policy, and it's the executive government, right, which is myself and staff who have to then execute those policies. So if you're talking in terms of the city of Tumwater, it's council. What council proposes, what council presents, what council votes.
And so if we were to understand how to influence it, and if we were to be motivated on how to influence it, we'd have to learn how far back to go.
Goes back to the strategic goals and priorities, right? Everything that council does for their term is based on their strategic goals and priorities that are posted on our website, so everything has to align with that.
And who sets those up?
Council. Every 2 years.
So as I was listening to you, Mayor, I thought I tried to sit in the role of somebody who really doesn't get this, has some problems, really doesn't know where to turn. And I would listen to that and go, what are you talking about? I need something to grab onto. I need something that tells me how I have a problem. I need to know who to talk to, and I need to know, maybe get some help in articulating my problem that really gets to the core of it, because I know I've got a problem, but I can't articulate it properly. Get some assistance in that, and then a resolution set, a resolution idea or action. So how do we do that? And this really gets back to the plain talk. How do we do that so that everybody understands, no matter their educational level, no matter their mastery of English, understands what's being talked about and doesn't get so intimidated they go out the door?
That might be one of our actions for a different goal, though. Like if we're trying to solve the problem, we're already beyond identifying gaps and barriers. So it sounds like you, just like Commissioner Gorski identified a gap now. And so you're actively working in our goal. But right this moment, what we're trying to do is trying to even establish a goal so that we can get to work. And you already started our work for us.
All right, yeah.
So can I ask you a follow-on question? Because that was fascinating. So how would you plain talk gaps and barriers? Because I think that's part of the problem is we're using language that maybe is not plain talk, right? So identify what that is causing people to not.
Identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services in Tumwater.
If you were to knock on someone's door to ask them for their feedback, what would you ask?
For their feedback on what?
Whatever you're talking about, you're knocking on someone's door and you wanna, would you ask that question like that, or what would you ask?
Oh, or would I ask a community member?
I missed the question. I didn't quite hear.
Oh, the mayor asked, how would I rephrase this if I were to go up to a community member and ask this question.
And what was your question?
Or the statement. The statement is identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services in Tumwater.
Or you could ask them, what do they see as a roadblock or a crack,
Yeah,
a gap? I guess you can still use the word gap. People understand that. But like
What
a
about what's working
roadblock,
well, what could be better?
what was that?
The mayor asked, what's working well and what could be better?
Yeah.
And just to role play your question, if you were knocking on doors and say, hello, citizen, have you accessed city services for anything? Well, no, I haven't. Why? It's difficult for me because I don't know where to start. So, okay, how can we make that easier?
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Who are you? Where are you? Do you know about the services? And those might be, and I didn't know this already. I'm listening to you and sort of throwing this back, but do we know who the community action is?
And I think I brought this up at maybe our first meeting, but maybe it's worth setting up a table at city events. Dog Days is this weekend. I know that because I'm going.
I'm going, yeah.
Did you have a goal, like you draft a plan, get your stuff?
But I mean, I know that at city events that there are tables with city employees who are volunteering and say, hey, I work for the city, and come and talk to me, ask questions. That's meeting the community. I'm on the Equity Commission. I'm here to make it easier for you to access the city.
You know, that's really good. Just the idea of being present and available for folks and entering into the dialogue. Because I think one of the things I said in the very beginning is, what did city council form this group for? What did they most need? And so did they most need for us to address? And so in a tabling at Dog Days, for example, that's a City of Tumwater event. There would be the opportunity to just chat with people, start off with some kind of an overture. You know, you're really interested to know what you've been experiencing when you interface or when you come to City Hall or when you meet with, I don't know, words aren't right, but when you interface with, that's too high level of a word, but interface with city government, what problems have you had? What challenges have you had to face? Maybe even find out how they overcame them, that, as some information. I'm thinking about, what I'm going to be doing at Dog Days is I'm going to be with the Friends of Joint Animal Services. So what I do is, people are walking by, I go right up to them and I say, I'd love to tell you about our group, and come in and I'm excited about telling them. And then I also tell them about the Humane Society, and it just kind of comes together. And so if we had a similar kind of thing for an outreach for the Equity Commission to let people know it exists and start asking questions, entering into community dialogues. It's a great idea, but that's really more like what you're saying. Yes. What you're saying is we're talking about action items here.
Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, tasks, action items.
But it's also a way to collect.
Yeah, right. It feeds into that. But we need to get to the core goal that we're working towards, and then we have these task action items.
The folks are going to ask you at your table, what is your goal? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? And so I'd really like to get us to that why.
Why do we exist? What are we doing?
Well, you exist.
Well,
You
what,
have bylaws.
why,
Why?
why did the city
Why
put this together?
You're gonna get a different answer
From
from every
every
council member and myself.
Okay, and that's interesting too. Why would that?
But I can tell you that they all agreed on this ordinance that created this code that puts
Okay.
it into existence.
That's handy. That's great. Okay. Why such confusion? Why such,
I didn't think.
okay.
Just
I'm-
everybody, different priorities.
Okay, so you're saying that, in terms of our city council members, that they each have areas that they are more focused on. and they're
More
really-
passionate
are passionate about, okay?
I would highly recommend you to review our strategic goals and priorities,
Mhm.
right? And there's multiple lenses to multiple elements, right? My jam is environmental justice, right? My background is chemistry. So that sustainability element, right? The tree canopy, right? Of different parts of our community. So my lens has an environmental aspect, to it, right? And those services, right? You're gonna get a different answer from Councilmember Agati, Councilmember Sullivan, Councilmember Angela Jefferson, right? You're gonna get a different answer, but the overlap is equity and how we provide services, voices we're hearing from, and what influence we wanna do, and the legacy we wanna leave in the next 15 years.
That's
So you're
it.
gonna get a different answer, right?
That's
What
it.
I need from this commission is I need your voice, I need you to advocate for the gaps, however you define them, right? Short-term, long-term, of who is missing, right? For me, I have a 3-question list for everything that I do. Does this improve lives? Does it expand opportunities? And who am I missing? Who am I missing? I need you all to tell me, who am I missing? It might not change the outcome, right? And a lot of people are not gonna like the things that I'm pushing, and I'm okay with that. But I need your voices, I need your advocacy to help shape the policies and tell us who is missing.
Can you read, I was just gonna ask if you could read your sentence.
I have a new version of it.
Okay.
Since in response to how I would, oh, and there's a raised hand, by the way.
Commissioner Crary?
Oh, yes, I was thinking, and it does make me kind of nervous to say that the best way is to find out where some of these people are and what's going on in our community is through the school boards. The different schools have different issues. They have different demographics, different neighborhoods. But the how is another issue. Because they can tell you who needs food, who has maybe mental issues at home. I mean, the schools can tell you a lot what's going on in the community.
And that's where I wondered if us knowing what corresponds to the city versus what corresponds to the state versus what corresponds to the county might be good for us to have as foundational knowledge. When we are listening to community members, because some of those issues, like the food bank, for example, is a Thurston County thing.
They're in tunnel.
Yeah,
are.
so I'll interrupt everybody here for just a second. There's no point in this discussion that you're gonna have with the community where you have to worry about, that's not our responsibility.
Okay.
You're going to be, the goal for you is to be the trusted ear.
Right.
And to listen for patterns, to listen for gaps and barriers. I, as a staff member, am the one who has to worry about, oh yeah, sorry, we don't do school stuff.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true, right? Because I can always reach out to my partner agency and do a gentle handoff of somebody who is in need. So you don't have to worry about that so much. And I will always give you a framework, like a table of information. I'll always try to set the table for you so that you're aware of the constraints before we have conversations with partner agencies. But you had a new version.
Yeah, and keep in mind that I still think separating participation in government, participation in public policy they should be separate. But, so the first one rewritten after listening was dialogue with community members to find out what they know and don't know about Tumwater's services.
Say that one more time.
Dialogue with community members to find out what they know and don't know about Tumwater's services. I kind of stepped away from the use part of it, talked about full understanding and use. Simply because if they don't know about something, they won't know how to use it. If they do know about something, I think the use of it will come naturally in the conversation.
Commissioner Crary?
Oh, did I leave my hand up? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. All right.
So this feels a little narrower to me. It feels like a task under a broader need. I'm going to shuffle this over to Commissioner Turner or Commissioner Ellison.
I feel it's important just to identify who lives here. Like, what are the demographics? And, you know, because we could go to city events, but maybe there's not a lot of people that go to the city events or don't know about the city events, access to the city events, that type of stuff. So I'm also struggling trying to figure out this goal too. So, you know, I'm like terrible at making goals.
It's like writing a resume.
It
It's like
is,
you don't want to
it
do it.
But I do agree, splitting them up, public policy and transportation are two separate beasts. So
I can reread the original one if we want to kind of go back. Was identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services in Tumwater.
I like that.
So let's test. How can we measure? Maybe through feedback to collect.
Yeah.
We talked about going out and doing engagement.
We would document whether that's verbal feedback that we're getting or
By listening to community members, listening to city officials, city departments.
So Commissioner Rita Reyes, you have the draft there. So where could we plug in some words that just say the collection of community feedback? Or plain talk, that phrase?
collect community feedback is what you're saying? Collect community feedback to identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services.
Is that achievable to you all? Is that realistic?
Hey, Vision.
Does it align with your purpose in the ordinance?
So
What's your time frame? You can ask, could turn around and ask our coaches, coach, what would you, what's a normal time frame for a commission that you ask to answer a question?
I have my internal answer and my external.
Let's start with the external.
It's budget season right now, so we're starting the budget conversation. So it's June. So realistically, to gather data, I would say 18 months. If you're gonna align it with that biennium, if there's gonna be any impacts, it should be 2 years. But I need some measurables in between that. Sure. If you're gonna do something, I would say 2 years so it lines up with budget.
Well, I think collection of information, you can just do that forever. And maybe you want to, that might be an ongoing thing that happens, but I guess to start with, I mean, we don't even know what short-term goals would be. We don't, I'm speaking for myself, I don't know. I don't know what the gaps are for people, so.
There were two already identified, I thought, but, are we saying maybe that we want a product so that it's time bound? Like, do we want
So
to?
you do have an opportunity in November, you have your joint work session with council. And that would be a fantastic opportunity to say, hey, if we started collecting this information and we've started looking through all the city's data. And so that would be a great time to say, we've had a couple months under our belt. Here's what we found out so far. That's your first periodic update.
That's November, right?
Yeah.
November. And that doesn't mean that you've got your full data set, but it kind of shows trends in the way that it's going. It gives you the summer to attend the different parks events and the different events we have at the city where you would have an easy up. And that way you could do the outreach. Does that feel?
What are we giving them? A presentation? A report? Is that part of the goal, or just we get to it when we
So if you're having a discussion on your staff, I can give a presentation based on what you guide me to present. By that time, we will definitely have the work plan. We'll try to kick out the first version of the work plan immediately. And that first meeting that you have with them is you can show them, you know, what you've collected so far and what you intend to do. You'll have your work plan as something to discuss. And what I think I was getting back to is the 2-year, as far as your goal. We can put 2 years on the goal, but that doesn't mean you got to wait 2 years to talk about the data. You can start testing your data right away. So going in and talking to council at that work session, saying, hey, here's what we're collecting. And they might have ideas for more or different data that you could be collecting.
And it's possible that something might be identified by November and say, we've noticed a trend, many people are saying.
Many people are experiencing this. And also, as you said, you're not going to move faster than the speed of trust. And so it will take time because qualitative data, what you're talking about, outreach and conversations, there's a lot of ethical boundaries around that and a lot of care. So I think 2 years is actually a really nice for the first goal. It doesn't mean we don't add more goals, but for a first one, that sounds pretty reasonable. I'm using the cheat code here because I have
I
a
agree.
mirror in the room.
I agree.
Yeah.
Align with the budget. I agree.
Can I get a repeat of what the differences was between the 18 months and the 2 years?
When you are building your relationships and you're getting feedback and there's some things that need to be addressed, any change, any zoning, any code takes 18 months from start to finish. That's where I always do. I always say 18 months, 18 months, 18 months. Give you the buffer of going through all the boards and commission, staff reports, council work session, council, public hearings, 18 months. right? The speed of government or that transparency and accountability piece, right? What's missing is the inclusion and equity piece. Because right now, everything is about equal, well, equal, 18 months, right? We add that equity piece, that's gonna adjust. But that's just the standard answer you give for anything to change, any just, so it's 18 months.
Is your goal inclusive? Are you centering the voices of those most impacted and considering access to participation? That seems
That's the
pretty.
goal.
That's the whole goal.
Yeah.
And then is it equitable? Are we intentionally advancing fair outcomes and trying to avoid unintended disparities?
Also, the point of it all.
Would you like to reread?
Collect community feedback to identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services in Tumwater.
Where should we plug in the time frame?
Select community feedback over the next 18 to 24 months, whatever it is.
That's good. It gives you some wiggle room too.
We want to use the range.
Yeah, they're just fine.
Now I can plan you an equity commission summer. All right, so let's read our first goal one more time.
Collect community feedback over the next 18 to 24 months to identify what is preventing full understanding and use of government services in Tumwater.
How do you feel about that, Chair Snow?
I think it sounds good. Should I ask the question? We have a motion.
Do we have to vote on that?
Sure, let's do it in practice.
I don't think so, right?
Somebody else bring the motion.
There, first goal or only goal?
First.
First goal. Yeah.
We can add goals at any time, right?
Yes.
And I think we will, as we,
Identify
yeah,
gaps.
the more in the weeds, the more we get, yeah.
Just did the hardest part, which is doing the first one. And it's
Yeah.
okay to just have this for now.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a pretty big
I-
one, yeah.
I make the motion that we use the goal that Vanessa just wrote up so eloquently in plain language as our first goal for our commission.
Second.
Third.
So if I restate this motion, I have to restate it because I don't have it written down. Or can I say the goal that,
As written.
okay, just as written?
Goal as written.
We have a motion to adopt, there you go, yeah, I was saying that. Adopt the goal as written. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, so I'll put it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those not in favor, say nay. Motion passes.
So I will take that goal and I will continue to draft your work plan. And I should have that first outline to you. Where you see that. And that is when I will send you the Menti presentation we talked about in the last meeting. This meeting was very quick after our last. They're a little slower this time, but I will send you the draft beforehand, and included in that will be a proposed schedule of events, all the city events, the schedule of the other advisory boards, so that if you want to split up and maybe have folks attend an advisory board, we'll also be reaching out with council one-on-ones. So a one-on-one connection for you as we work through this work plan. And that is all I have for the work plan goals.
So that brings us to our next meeting. On July 13th, we'll review our work plan and review people. And it sounds like we'll be having the Tumwater 101 presentation next meeting. I think that'll be super helpful for guiding us to. Is there anything else for the good of the orders? The business to discuss. Okay, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned at 7:26.